special orange notes. Good morning and welcome. I'd like to call to order the Planning Commission meeting of March 10th, 2016. The records show all the Planning Commissioners are here. I would like for you now to join with me for a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Are there any agenda changes?
No.
No agenda changes. Next is our public comment period, but before we commence with that, Commissioner Wooster has asked for a moment to make a statement.
Yes, thank you. At the March 3rd Planning Commission meeting, I made a remark, a question really, that is apparently being viewed as offensive and hurtful. That was not my intent. To put this in context, the Commission had before it a draft general plan provision regarding the control of invasive plant species. The suggestion was made to delete the word plant, to broaden the provision, so it would just read invasive species, not modified by the word plant or anything else. Read literally, that could include everything from bugs to plants to the human species. The question I raised, which has caused the controversy, was directed to the vague nature of this draft provision, that it could literally be read to refer to people when it should not be. I have had negative experiences with cartel marijuana growers on my ranch, and we were talking about invasive species that are here illegally. I don't know the cartel growers, but I've seen what they do, and I've seen what they leave behind, and it's not pretty. The Mexican people I have known and do know were and are decent, hardworking, and talented people. That being said, my remark was a very unfortunate choice of words. It never should have happened. So to those that I have offended and hurt, I do apologize. This was my own mistake, not that of my fellow commissioners or of any other county official. I hope that we can move forward now with the work that needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wooster. So it's our public comment period. If anyone would like to address the Planning Commission on a land use item that's not on our agenda, now would be your opportunity.
Good morning, Colleen Platt. I'm speaking today as a resident of Valley Springs, and I'm speaking on behalf of my friend, Joyce Teckel. She's a Burson resident. She could not attend today, and she asked me to present this letter to you, Commissioners. Commissioners, I attended the previous Planning Commission meeting on March 3rd. The Commission was working on the general plan update. It is not always possible for me to hear everything said at meetings, so I later watched the video of the meeting online. I wanted to confirm what I had been told was said at the meeting and how commissioners reacted. There was a discussion about a biological policy to eradicate invasive plant species. At 1 hour and 3 minutes in on the video, Chair McLaughlin asks about adding animals to invasive plant species. Director Maurer suggests removing reference to plants and animals altogether and just say invasive species. The commissioners agreed because, quote, that covers everything. Commissioner Wooster added, including people from Mexico. After reviewing the video, I wish to say that Mr. Wooster needs to choose his words more carefully, and that each commissioner must strive for a higher level of decorum at these meetings. When a person chooses to be seated in this chamber, they become a voice of the county. The discourse here is public and on the record. Racism and bigotry cannot and will not be tolerated. Being planning commissioner is not a popularity contest, and this is not Saturday Night Live. Please don't cross the line of civility and humanity. Look to your higher powers, not your baser instincts. Signed, Joyce Teckel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Vicki Ranke, Calaveras County Republicans. I had to respond, sorry, but I was at that meeting as well. I heard the comment. I sort of understood because, yeah, what does that mean? Invasive whatevers. And we've all heard the apology from Mr. Wooster, and I think we all need to accept it. And, you know, what is going on in our world that we can't say anything now without being told that we're racist or that we're whatever? So anyway, I just want you to know that I didn't take it that way that day. And I just want to say thank you. You know, you gave your apology, and I hope that this is done. Thank you.
Vicki Mills, Velocito. I apologize beforehand if I start to cry, because when I get angry, I cry. Not sad, but angry. And I thank Callie for his apology. That's where it should end. It shouldn't have went any further than Calaveras County. But whoever in Calaveras County chose to put this on all of the TV stations in Sacramento, shame on them, because they are using a regrettable remark, as Kelly said, as a public forum to do not only character assassination on Kelly, but for their own agenda that has nothing to do with what was going on in this room. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we not have applause? Thank you.
Bonnie Newman from Double Springs. To answer a question, what is going on? There is a lot of bigotry. There is a lot of intolerance being exhibited in public lately because of the elections, for one thing. We have people demeaning and insulting people of race. So people, of course, would take offense when someone inadvertently makes a statement that others would find offensive. That's what's going on. That's why people would be offended and say something about it. And to draw attention that it's intolerable. It's intolerable, and if we have to be shamed into acting decent, then that's what it takes. I had something to say about invasive species because we live in a place called Calaveras, which means skulls. It's a Spanish word. We live in a state which is a Spanish name. We have cities named Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Jose, all Spanish names because the Spaniards, people of Hispanic race, were here before all of the white Europeans descended upon this place. So I want to talk about invasive species. Maybe all of us white Europeans need to go back to where we come from. Making statements in a public forum displays our ignorance, it displays our arrogance, and it displays our intolerance. And that's what's wrong. That's what's going on all over America.
Thank you.
Marty Crane. Commissioner Wooster, thank you so much for your comments this morning. Whenever I hear something, I immediately wonder, do I agree with that? Is that something that I agree with? Does that fall into everything that I have heard in the past? So what I'm speaking of is I really appreciate your dedication and to working within the public process here on the commission. I appreciate that. But you are a body that sets policy for all the people. So when I heard your words, and I questioned, is that what he meant to say? Oh my goodness. But we heard your words. So that is why so much hurt went on over this last week. And people were offended, and rightfully so. My concern is that, thank you, Fawn, for saying, well, we're not going to address that, and bringing it back to a professional board. I looked at what was happening, and Commissioner Tuno and Commissioner Murrietti's, you covered your eyes, and I'm assuming you couldn't believe what you were hearing, and were laughing, for whatever reason, maybe in just disbelief, I don't know, because we were all feeling a little bit of a shock wave as well. Mr. Allred, you just sat there and laughed, and you all had an opportunity to further that discussion and to address it right then and there and get to the bottom of what your intention was, instead of letting it fester for a whole week. I think we can absolutely do better. I appreciate Joyce Tuckle's letter that was read. I certainly appreciate what Bonnie Newman said. And I think that we need to look to our better selves and raise the bar and do the work of the people. Thank you, and thank you again for your statement.
Thank you.
I'm Peter Race from Jenny Lynn. I feel I'm an endangered species because I'm white. I'm a minority in this state. And I'm getting tired of this, oh my God, I got to be politically correct. I resent that. Yes, maybe some people get offended. And no matter what you're going to say, well, for you, I feel bad for that you have to watch how much and what you're saying. I enjoy my freedom that I don't have to worry about it. I can be a total A if I want to be. I resent a bunch of phony two-bit hypocrites. I resent undocumented illegal immigrants, no matter where they're coming from. And as far as endangered species, a Caucasian white, I feel I'm an endangered species in this state. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good morning. Bill McManus, resident of Calaveras County. Normally at this time I give you another episode on the Truth Tour. This morning I apologize for disappointing all of you that the subject will not be the scourge of marijuana in our county and communities. Instead, I would like to direct my remarks to everyone that's present and the rest of the board. I've been here at this podium several times to compliment the Planning Commission, the Planning Department, and others on their hard and thoughtful work on behalf of the citizens of Calaveras County. I don't know Mr. Wooster that well. We're certainly not personal friends. We've had a handful of short conversations. But over this period of time, I have listened to him, and while we had very few words between each other, I have listened to tens of thousands of words that Mr. Wooster has contributed to the effort. You know, there's people around that when you get to know them or you get a sense of who they are, Mr. Wooster is, in my opinion, considered, one of the smartest people in the room, wherever he's at. That intellect and that critical thinking skill that he has contributed immeasurably to the product that comes out of this commission. I want to thank Commissioner Wooster for his efforts. I want to express to Mr. Wooster my support and my admiration and thanks for being on this commission, and I look forward to seeing you work in the future, starting today, starting with the agenda, as we move forward and everyone contributes, and you are just a remarkable commissioner among many others, and I want to thank you for your efforts. And like I say, I tend not to focus on one sentence, but I tend to focus and reflect on the tens of thousands of sentences I've heard you speak in this room. So once again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mike Preston, Hathaway Pines. I will parrot what he just said, because I know the Wooster family I've been here 72 years, that's what I can tell you. And I think a lot of the problem was caused by our local newspaper, very biased article by Muriel Zeller, which was incorrect at best. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not supposed to speak as a member of the newspaper, but as a member of the public.
Could you please state your name for the record, too?
Sonia Warch.
Thank you.
This is not an isolated incident. I don't think we should single out Commissioner Wooster, because Commissioner Tuno and Peter Raish have also made similar comments in this room, and so have a lot of people just out in the community. So this isn't an isolated incident, and these comments have been said before, so this is a larger issue.
Thank you.
I'm not elected.
Please.
What did you say? Can I see that?
No, Mr. Race? Mr. Race, this is not a discussion, but you were addressing the commission.
Well, you didn't call me names and you didn't give me a bit of gesture, man.
Please stop. Is there anyone else? Okay, that closes the public comment period. I guess I would also like just to say one thing, and it was really that Marty Crane brought up, and that we really did miss an opportunity at the meeting to address this issue. Quite frankly, I was astonished and was personally hoping that Mr. Wooster would, have said something earlier. And as far as the, how it's escalated, it wasn't until 10 minutes ago, that we understood that Mr. Wooster was apologizing for his comment. Saying that, I accept Mr. Wooster's apology, with the understanding that racism and prejudice, even though that's not what his intent was, just to be clear, has no home here. Has no home here in these chambers, and will not be tolerated. And should this situation arise again, please be assured that that I will speak out in a more timely manner. So shall we move on? The next item is the consent agenda, which is the approval of minutes from the February 18th, 2016 Planning Commission meeting and the March 3rd Planning Commission meeting. Are there any revisions or corrections?
None for me.
None for me.
So is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Ted, you wanted to abstain from which meeting? The February 18th? Okay, with one abstention for that date. Next up is our public hearing, which is 2015-024, conditional use permit for, and I'm sorry, I'm just going to...
Excuse me, did you skip over the March 3rd minutes?
No?
We approved them both at the same time.
Okay, I just heard 18th in the motion. Not an issue then, if you included them both
I
in the
did.
motion.
I did. And I am not even going to try and pronounce this gentleman's name. I'm going to leave that to our planning staff. But it's a conditional use permit for the purpose of continuing an existing automotive dismantling yard. And I'm going to actually turn it over to Peter for a moment.
Yeah, before we start, I'd like to introduce to the commission one of our new planners, Scott Spear, comes to us from Bainbridge Island, Washington, after growing up in this area, got his first job up there, and we're really happy to have him on board to help out with keeping up with the projects that we have. So Scott Spear is our new planner, and we welcome him and happy to have him here.
Welcome. Welcome.
Like I said, this is conditional use permit 2015-04 for Mr. Mahou. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for the purpose of continuing an existing automotive dismantling
Oh,
yard.
I'm sorry, Scott, could you push the microphone
Bring that
closer
real
to you?
It's not
Yes.
getting me.
No, so that everyone can hear.
That doesn't pick up.
Is that better?
Is that better?
Hello?
And- Yes, so speak up,
Okay.
don't be afraid.
So, like I said, the applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for the purpose of continuing an existing automotive dismantling yard. The proposed project will be processing approximately 25 vehicles per month. Existing facilities are adequate for the applicant's needs, and no major site improvements are proposed. The subject property is located at 3474 Toyon Circle in Valley Springs. It's at the southern portion of the Toyon Industrial Park. The aerial photograph, the most recent aerial photos from Google Earth show the previous existing dismantling yard in operation. The site was an operational dismantling business from 2005 until November 2014, shortly before the applicant purchased the property in 2015. Upon purchasing the property, the applicant began the process of bringing the property into compliance. The site currently is improved with two metal structures, a 7,500 square foot building, which will serve as the applicant's office, sales floor, and garage to dismantle automobiles, and a 1,000 square foot building intended for security and equipment. The auto yard is fenced and has a capacity for over 100 vehicles. The site currently has 7 exterior lights on the building and office. The project does not propose to add any additional lighting. Existing lights will be shielded to prevent any excessive brightness or glare on adjacent properties. There are currently 5 off-street parking spaces, 4 regular and 1 handicap. They're located in front of the main building. The auto yard is currently fenced with chain link as a condition of approval and to satisfy code. The fence surrounding the yard will be made solid and be a minimum of 6 feet in height. The applicant is not proposing to construct any new structures or add to any existing structures, and as a result, there's no requirement to create any additional parking spaces or install any new landscaping. The project site is located within an improved industrial subdivision with interior road system and an existing encroachment from Highway 12. The Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual estimates that industrial uses generate 14 daily trips per day per acre of land. Therefore, this 1.8 acre parcel is estimated to generate approximately 25 daily trips per day. The proposed project only has 3 full-time and 2 part-time employees with an estimated average of less than 1 daily tow truck delivery, and therefore the project will be far below this threshold. The project will not result in reconfiguring or constructing any new roads or encroachments. Current utilities, water and sewage for the site are currently handled by Toyon Park Water System and on-site septic disposal. After review of the existing facilities, environmental management determined the existing water connection and septic system are suitable for the use and no improvements are required. An initial study was prepared pursuant to CEQA guidelines to evaluate the environmental impacts associated with the project. It was determined that the proposed project will not have a significant environmental impact. A negative declaration was prepared and circulated for 30 days. We received 2 comment letters. They were routine agency comments and did not warrant revisions to the document or modify significant levels for the impact discussed. The planning department reviewed this permit, and based on our ordinances and regulations, we recommend that the Planning Commission pass a motion to sign resolution 2016-004, adopting the negative declaration and approving conditional use permit 2015-024 for Mojidi Gulan Mabu. And I have some pictures of the site here. Here's the existing facilities for the dismantling in the office. And this is a portion of the parking lot. Here's the interior of the dismantling structure. And here's the auto yard. As you can see, the fencing surrounding the yard in most of these pictures. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of Scott right now?
Yes, those pictures that you just showed there, I've been to that wrecking yard. I remember seeing wrecked cars.
Yes.
Is it empty now?
It is empty now. It was emptied when the previous owner discontinued operations in November of last year.
Okay, I saw
2014, sorry.
I saw a truck going down the road the other day with a bunch of wrecked cars on it. Did they come out of that lot? Is that what?
No.
That's been some time. It's been cleared.
Yes, it's not in operation at this moment.
So the new operation will be like the old operation. It will have a dismantling yard and.
Yes, so the idea is about 25 vehicles a month will come to the site. They will get rid of all the fluids and dismantle the things, and dismantle the vehicles and sell off the parts. The vehicles will be stored in the lot until they reach approximately 100 vehicles, at which site a recycler will come and take away the cars.
Okay, so in the new operation, it would or would not have about the same volume of disabled cars as the old one? It will be more of a come and go affair?
Yeah, so they'll, like I said, they'll bring them there until they reach their threshold, and then they'll cart them all off.
A threshold of 100?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
There's reference to that they're on septic system, and then down further under utilities, you talk about them being water or sewage. We're referencing both.
They have water. I just said that the water is handled by Toyon Park Water System. The sewage is the on-site septic disposal. So they don't. The way they are handling their waste water is through septic.
Okay.
Any other questions of Scott?
I think I'm good.
All right, at this time, I'd like to ask that the applicant or the applicant's agent is here and would like to address the commission. If you could come on up.
Hi, my name is Mahbub Mujadidi, and I had a business in Hayward, Auto Dismantle, for 10 years. Then the city took over because they expanded the freeway to all the wrecking yards in Hayward. And I bought this place to open a new business in Calaveras County in Valley Spring. to be help people. They need parts for their car, and that was for a long time an auto dismantler. And we just try to really open it and waiting for the permission to you guys to help, and hopefully I'll be a good help in the society in this area. If any question, I can answer.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
No.
Mr. Mahbub? No, thank you very much. We may have
Thank
some
you.
later.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it, all your help.
Sure.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this application for a conditional use permit?
Yes, good morning. Colleen Platt with My Valley Springs. We want to support the application and appreciate the good job that the planning department did and the conditions that have been imposed. We support the solid fence requirement as far as aesthetics, to improve the aesthetics of the existing yard, and the downshielding of all the exterior lighting will be appreciated with the 7 existing fixtures there also do the aesthetics. And we also understand that there will be required to do a stormwater pollution prevention plan now for this project, and that's great because this is in the drainage for the Calaveras River and the Calaveras Reservoir, not too far away. So we appreciate that condition also. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Marty Crane. This is great. Thank you for bringing your business to Calaveras County. I just wanted to say that a few minutes ago, I asked one of the people owners of this project, so you went through the conditional use permit process, and how was that? Was that painful? No. So now we went through the CUP process. The public is assured of the protection of the drinking water and all the other aspects of this project on our communities. And I just can't help myself but say, why aren't we doing that for an asphalt plant in the middle of a neighborhood? So applause, applause, applause. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? All right, so I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. Are there any further questions, or are you ready for the recommendation?
Ready.
Okay. Scott?
I recommend that the Planning Commission pass a motion to sign Resolution 2016-004, adopting the negative declaration and approving conditional use permit 2015-024 for Mr. Mahbub.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Congratulations and welcome. Thank you.
Just for the record, this action is final unless an appeal is filed within 15 calendar days from today's date. So not official till the appeal period is over. It doesn't sound like there's going to be any appeals.
All righty. So next up is our continued review of the general plan update. And today's discussion includes the circulation element, conservation and open space element, and should we get there, the technical background report. So I believe we're starting with the circulation element.
Yes, that's correct. So we heard this several weeks ago. There were some changes that were to be made. There were some questions that the commission had. The changes that the commission made at the previous ones are shown in underline and strikeout. I don't know that there's any real big questions or issues that I need to go over. Hopefully I captured the changes that the commission directed. I think that there was one thing that the commission had some concerns about, or questions about at least, regarding some of the road policies, particularly with regard to maintenance. Robert Packinger from the Public Works Department is here if you have any questions of him. I think that's it. We did provide a revised exhibit circulation 1 after doing a lot more research on the road system that's been identified in the county, this map has been modified to only show the arterials and major collectors. So we found that there were a number of errors in the previous map, and we started showing all of the minor collectors. There's 80 identified roads of minor collectors, and it just would have made a very busy and unnecessarily busy map. I don't think that, the minor collectors were necessary to show on this. This, identifies the major routes that the county has identified for circulation purposes in the county. And so this map has been changed just to show the arterials and major collectors and correct some of the errors that were previously shown. So with that, if there get into a discussion of the changes that were made, and hopefully they satisfied the concerns and questions, and I captured accurately all the previous edits that were done.
You did as far as my notes show.
Great.
I do have some suggestions and questions, starting with page 1. We were going to more carefully define the concept of complete streets on page 1, and there's been an effort to do that, but I think we can do it better. If you go to the second paragraph, the third sentence says it also addresses transportation funding and the concept of complete streets within communities, a strategy to serve all transportation modes. That just sort of hangs there by itself, when really I think what it's tied to is the next paragraph that discusses state law, Government Code 65302B2. And so my suggestion would be to take that sentence in paragraph 2, the third sentence, and have it read, it also addresses transportation funding, period. And then down just before the last sentence in paragraph 3, the sentence that begins Caltrans's complete streets policy, insert the following, which is basically from low paragraph 2, and say, this is the concept of complete streets within communities, comma, a strategy to serve all transportation modes, which then makes it clear that when we're talking about complete streets, we are talking about the state law requirements.
Kelly, can you read that again, please?
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Okay, what it would be is the third sentence, second paragraph, would simply read, it also addresses transportation funding, period. Then the remainder of that sentence would essentially move down.
You mean a new sentence?
Yes, a new sentence after transit users and before Caltrans's complete streets policy that would read, this is the concept of complete streets within communities, a strategy to serve all transportation modes, which is exactly the language from paragraph 2. It just gets moved down where I think it belongs.
I think it works. I think that works.
Okay.
Okay, my next note is on page 14, and this is page C14. This is 2.16. The county shall only accept new roads into the county-maintained system when such roads are built to county standards, benefit non-project related traffic, have a funding mechanism in place for road maintenance, and have a forecasted acceptable level of service. And the question that we had was, if it's being accepted into the county-maintained system, why does it have to have a funding mechanism in place for road maintenance? And I think that was the issue that Public Works was here to address us on.
Yes. Robert?
Sure. Could you come up?
Good morning, Robert Packinger, Public Works Department. The current funding for county-maintained roads is very limited. and on a yearly basis, it continues to be reduced. It's based on what we can get back from the gas tax to HUDA funds. And so what happens at this point is that the county maintained system, the basic system that we know of the county maintained roads, is deteriorating because there's insufficient funding. As new development occurs and projects develop the road system within the new subdivisions, they may wish to approach the county to take over some of these roads. The only way that we can provide the maintenance for these road systems is if something that's called a permanent road division is established. The permanent road division is in accordance with, let me give you the section here, Streets and Highways Code, section 1160. That's the permanent road division section. So what happens there is...
Did you say division or provision?
Division.
Division.
Yes. So what happens there is that the homeowners within, or the property owners within this area have fees that are collected that are used exclusively for the maintenance of the roads within their area. There is one permanent road division in place right now. It's the Woodgate Indian Creek Permanent Road Division number 1. It was established in 2012, and you may know it as the roads that are on the west side of Highway 26 over by Vista del Lago West. So currently those roads are within the permanent road division, and what monies they collect, Public Works manages the maintenance there. So they'll call us for different things like installing signs, or there's a long-term maintenance program that's in place for that.
And how are those
subdivision.
fees collected, Robert?
They're collected through the tax bill.
So they have a special assessment or something?
That's correct.
You're talking about the street that goes from the, it used to be a Shell station, now it's something else. And then that unfinished neighborhood, that very short street?
It's the unfinished neighborhood. That section, those are the streets that are covered by this permanent road division. Vista del Lago West, where the gas station is not a part of this.
Oh,
no.
just where it tees off from there.
Right.
So, do I understand that for you, this means that a new road to be accepted by the county for maintenance purposes, because you don't have fund, you're short of funding, you require the new road to have a funding source like this one?
Yes, sir.
And this is the only one that exists in the county right now?
Yes, sir.
Do we have language in here addressing that? Because I don't recall going over that.
Well, that's the issue, the question on 2.16, and as Mr. Wooster pointed out, that one of the provisions is have a funding mechanism in place for road maintenance.
There are other mechanisms that are available. CSDs can be established, or others. This is just one example.
Okay, but it puts the property owners in this division, this model, in the situation of kind of double paying. They pay more than anybody else. They pay for their own streets, and they pay for other people's streets. They're the only property owners that are placed in this status, this financial status.
Well, the other alternative is that they're privately maintained. The county doesn't accept them.
I understand that. So what's...
The benefit would be that there is a team of road maintenance crew that knows how to repair and fix roads, and it's, that's the county public works department. But rather than, someone in Mokelumne Hill or in Copperopolis paying to maintain these local roads, they're paying for the specific maintenance of their road system, as well as the generalized road system that we have, the larger county roads, Mountain Ranch, and, roads like that, that are, truly traveled by many people, the public, and is, it shouldn't be the responsibility of someone living along that road, because the vast majority of traffic is not generated by that. But in a small subdivision, the bulk of that traffic are people coming to and from their homes, or people visiting the people in those homes. So it is appropriate that they pay for the maintenance of their roads, as well as the other roads that they travel. And the alternative would be that they're privately maintained and they're going to pay for them anyway. So people that have been here for a long time and living in an existing subdivision, they don't have to pay that extra, you're right. But that's just the changing nature of funding of government services. That it's pay-as-you-go now, and rather than the general taxpayer covering those costs.
Okay, in this model, the people in the neighborhood, this one that we're talking about, the funding that they supply, take the county out of it. The funding that the property owners pay for street maintenance, is that sufficient to maintain their streets?
When they go into preparing the permanent road division, they prepare a plan with a cost estimate.
Projections.
And projections. And that's how the per lot fee or per parcel fee is established. And yes, it's assumed that that would be sufficient to cover that plan that they want to do.
So the only advantage to them to dedicate or for the county to accept the dedication of these streets, is that a proper word, dedication?
Yes.
Is that they have a ready-made contractor in the name of the county to pave the roads. And is it assumed that the county can do it cheaper than a private entity?
It's not necessary that the county performs the work. It may be that a contractor performs the work. And for example, whenever there's a work program where there's some asphalt work throughout the county, the contractor may be tasked to provide some work within this area also. So there's an economy of scale that we would be looking for. So
a possible economy of scale.
Right. So to be direct with the answer, it isn't necessary that only county forces perform the work. For another example, CSA number 1, Rancho Calaveras. The county performs some maintenance, like the replacement of signs and so forth and so on. But overlays and other projects like that are let out by contract, and contractors perform that work.
I guess what I'm trying to figure out is whether or not under these circumstances, there's any real advantage to a subdivision dedicating its roads to the county, and the county accepting them, as opposed to just continue on your way and maintain your roads as with your own funds and let it go with that. I mean,
What's happened, years of entering into little road maintenance agreements, they've been ineffective and weak, and internal roads deteriorate. So you'll see a lot of private subdivisions without any effective road maintenance.
So the county would have to look at the provisions of their internal taxation and determine whether or not independently there was going to be sufficient money for the county to see fit to accept that dedication.
That would be part of the process. When this is brought to the Board of Supervisors, there will be a plan set in place, the cost estimates are reviewed and so forth.
Thank you.
Well, this provision requires that before the county will accept the roads, they have to already be built to county standards and benefit non-project related traffic and have a funding mechanism in place for road maintenance. So it's not just that the roads in question would be benefiting only the people in the new subdivision by this very provision. And I'm having trouble understanding why this isn't a double payment on the people in the new subdivision when nobody in Rancho Calaveras has to do it, or Moke Hill or San Andres or any place else. These people are paying taxes just like everybody else, and on top of it, they have to have this funding mechanism. And my last problem with this is, why do we need this in the general plan as a absolute requirement for every subdivision? Has this been in a general plan before?
Yes, sir.
In the 96?
There have been provisions in the general plan circulation element for the establishment of private road maintenance entities.
As required in every instance?
Yes, sir.
So this is not
The
new?
old circulation element had similar provisions. This has been updated and rewritten. We've just tried to provide a little bit better guidance because the last, what we had in place, the road maintenance agreements, were very ineffective. So we've expanded it a little bit. As far as what you mentioned about taxation, the road fund is primarily funded through HUDA funds. It doesn't come from the property taxes or anything like that. It's what people pay at the gas pump. And that's a contribution then that's collected by the state, and then the state sends us back our little bit.
So these people, of course, are paying the gas tax just like everybody else.
Right.
So if this is a situation in Valley Springs, they're going to pay the RIM fee, the basin fee, then the development fee they're going to be paying multiple times over.
The RIM fee and the benefit basin fee are separate items. They're not for road maintenance. They're for the development's fair share to the impact to capacity of the roadway system. This, what we're talking about right now, is just for maintaining the roads.
Okay, but I think Mr. Wooster put his finger on it with the language to benefit non-project related traffic. We just had the conversation about they drive on their roads all the time. Okay, so there's this separate fee that they've set up to maintain the roads for that little neighborhood. And they pay taxes to help maintain the roads everywhere else in the county, as Mr. Maurer was pointing out. But with this particular language, in that respect, maintaining the roads for the rest, helping maintain the roads for the rest of the county, then they're double paying. Because if they have to have enough money in their system, in their method of collection, to pay for non-project related traffic, that's everywhere else in the county other than their street. You follow me?
I understand what you're saying. Let me take a look at that.
So, to continue while you're reading that, they have a kind of a disadvantage in that they're coming along at a time when the county can't, keep up with what it's got. So they have to pay their own way where other neighborhoods don't. And assuming that that would be a fair model to continue with under the circumstances, an unfortunate but fair under the circumstances, making that assumption, to go beyond that and to ask that they also include funds twice for non-project related traffic, that to me crosses the line.
I understand what I think perhaps what we need to look at a little closer is the clause here where it discusses benefit non-project related traffic. That's the clause I think that perhaps we'll need to, I'll speak with Peter about that particular thing, because for example, the Woodgate area, the PRD number 1.
What's that area?
Woodgate.
Woodgate?
Yes, that's the name of
That's
the.
what it's called?
Yes.
Okay.
That doesn't really have non-project related traffic. It really is an internal little traffic that they have. So that one, if we follow that model, that one doesn't really have non-project related traffic. The roadway that may have non-project related traffic is Vista del Lago West. And that one was, I believe, included in the county maintained system after it was constructed and just accepted without a separate funding mechanism to take care of that.
So maybe the issue is really that there are two separate issues associated with this policy. One is the county's ability to decide when or when to not accept a proposed road into the county maintained system. And I think that what I'm hearing from Robert is that the county, based on recommendation of Public Works Department, the board will say, we accept these roads because this serves the greater purpose. The other, you gave Robert my sheet here. The other policy that is, I'm trying to think where it's related, 2.17 is similar in that a road maintenance entity needs to be established. So maybe we just say something to the effect that whenever new roads are proposed, a maintenance entity is created, and we could come up with some clearer language that covers both privately maintained or publicly, financed, as this we call it the Permanent Road Division or a CSA or some other program. And then we have a separate policy that basically says that new roads that are proposed to be accepted in the county maintained mileage system support or benefit non-project related traffic.
I lost you there, Peter. I'm sorry.
So looking at the two different components of this policy, one is when does the county accept a road into the maintained mileage system? And I think the basic point is that when it benefits more than just the individual subdivision, that's when it really becomes more of a public road. And then regardless of whether it's publicly maintained or privately maintained, we want to make sure there's a maintenance provision in place with any project, any subdivision that's approved, that the roads are going to be maintained over time, and there's a funding mechanism that is covered by those benefiting from those roads.
Okay, what I hear you saying that is if a project does not include roads that the public would otherwise benefit from, it's just the residents, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Then the county is taking the position, we don't want those roads. You maintain them on your own with your own funding, and we're not going to accept any new roads under those conditions.
I'll look to Roger or to Robert on that, but I believe that's correct.
With the exception that the Permanent Road Division, if they wish to set that system up, the roads would become public roads.
Right.
Right.
What portion of the hypothetical project are these public roads that we include in our system? Is that what?
So anything that is set up in this Permanent Road Division are public roads. And the county accepts the dedication and they become public roads. If an applicant wants to make them private roads, then they're not offered, or they may be offered but rejected by the county, and then a private maintenance system is established, and they can be gated, they can essentially limit who gets access to those roads if they're privately maintained and privately owned. But once the county accepts them, then they're open to anyone in the public has the right to drive on those roads.
Of course.
And so we would need to craft, I think the way we blended these two issues together confused it. I see what Mr. Wooster is saying as far as they have to benefit, non-project traffic, plus they have to be maintained. I think maybe it's an or. If we're going to accept it and maintain it, they have to benefit more than just that project. So you've got a major road that goes through a subdivision that's going to serve, 3 or 4 projects beyond that, or maybe provide a connection between, 12 and 26. That serves much more than just that individual project, and it's something that the county probably would want to accept because it helps us in our circulation system. However, if an applicant says, I don't want to deal with long-term private maintenance and CC&Rs and all that, I just want to dedicate it to the public, then the county says, fine, we'll accept it, but you're going to set up some system to fund that over the long term. So maybe the language needs to be modified somewhat so it's rather than an and, that one phrase is pulled out and it becomes an or. So,
Okay.
so I would move that down to the, I'd have to work with Robert a little bit. Maybe we can bring this back, maybe after a break or something. We can continue the rest of this and come back with that specific language. I think there's a way we can rearrange this so that it makes sense and covers both scenarios.
Let me make sure I got the concept right.
Okay.
Are you saying that there are 2 different categories of roads that could be accepted in the public system? One would be those that do benefit non-project related traffic, and as to those, you would not require a funding system in place. The county would just accept them. And another class would be those that only serve the new subdivision and do not benefit non-project related traffic, and those would have to have the funding mechanism in place, such as this permanent road division classification. Is that what you're proposing?
Yes.
Okay, now, with respect to the latter, those people are paying a fee to maintain their roads that don't benefit anybody else. Everybody else pays a rim fee that benefits, supposedly, pays for the road in front of their house and other roads throughout the county, correct?
No, they're 2 separate. One is for maintenance, one is for improvements. The rim and the benefit basin fees are for major road improvements. Widening a road, constructing a new intersection, those are for one-time improvements to the road system. The road division or CSA pays for maintenance, ongoing maintenance over time. And the other maintenance funds that
And
we
that's
receive.
strictly gas tax dollars.
And gas tax dollars is what goes for maintenance of the rest of the county road system. So you've got basically 3 streams of funds. You've got gas tax dollars that go to the general fund that we then allocate to where we need it the most. You've got private road agreements, and we don't get involved in that. That's between the homeowners association or road associations or whoever's doing that. They hire their own contractors. They decide when they're going to spend their money. And there are problems associated with that because once people realize how much it costs to do that, they don't want to pony up that money, and there's no regular taxes that are, it's drawn out of, so there's money sitting in the pot. The third is just that, with these benefit basin or the CSAs or the land permanent road division that then provide a funding source for the county then to contract with or to make the improvements as they are necessary. That make the maintenance, do the maintenance as necessary.
But Peter, the gas tax money goes to the road fund, not to the general fund.
Okay, road fund.
Let me ask you if this would work for you.
Okay.
If we change this to say, the county shall only accept new roads into the county maintained system when such roads are built to county standards, have a forecasted acceptable level of service, and either A, benefit non-project related traffic, or B, have a funding mechanism in place for road maintenance.
I think that would work.
Your head's nodding.
Yes, that works.
That works.
Now, does that replace 2.17, or is that totally separate?
I think that's totally separate.
Okay.
Okay. My next one is 2.18.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Don't go away, though.
On the second sentence, which is now the only sentence, I thought we had it engineered to read, where practicable, new development shall utilize internal site roadway design, shared access points, frontage roads, or other design features to reduce encroachment onto high-traffic volume roads.
That language sounds familiar at the end of that sentence.
That's fine.
Shall I read it again?
I'm good with that.
We did do that.
That makes more sense. I think it more clearly goes to the direction of what we want to do with this policy. So that's a good change.
Okay.
Any others?
Yes. Page 15, 2.24. This says the county shall work to facilitate acquisition of right-of-way to construct a future alternate route through Valley Springs. I think that we talked about facilitating an alternate route around Valley Springs, and if you look at the implementation measure, C-2D on page 18, that's what it says. So to be consistent, and also to clean up the grammar, I would suggest it read, the county shall work to facilitate the acquisition of a right-of-way to construct a future alternate route around Valley Springs.
I do remember this conversation, and I think that we had originally talked about around Valley Springs, but then we realized that it may actually be through Valley Springs, because Valley Springs, depending on who you're talking to, covers a much larger area. I mean, it's not just the center, the intersection of, some of the options may be a route that goes through future development of Valley Springs. I'm okay with either, but I remember some of the folks...
Through or around.
Through or around, we could do that.
Just
And
cover
then do
them
the same
both.
thing on the
And we
implementation
could change
measure
it to
2D.
Yeah, just through or around.
Okay, but there was another aspect of that conversation. And I remember it because I brought it up, that the proposed routes that we've seen maps of, there are actually, in my view, two pieces. One that connected 12 and 26 west of Valley Springs Central, and one that connected the other way.
Right.
And you can consider them one route, but in reality, there's a very good possibility that those would be two separate projects done at completely different times, and they both serve a different purpose. They own their own purpose.
Right.
So maybe it's splitting hairs, but to me, it's not one project. It's the possibility of two projects at least.
So not limiting it to a right-of-way.
A project, a right-of-way.
And I think that makes sense. So if we just kept it the way it is, but with the addition of through or around.
The around is fine with me. The reference, how would we reference multiple projects?
Well, I think acquisition of right-of-way.
Rights of way.
Or rights-of-way or right-of-way, yeah. Whatever is appropriate. Doesn't indicate that it's a single.
To construct future, not alternative routes, plural, around Valley Springs.
I don't know that you need future. You're just going to work to facilitate acquisition of,
I'm sorry, say?
I don't know that you need future.
I think you're right. We haven't built it.
Pardon me?
It hasn't been constructed. We're
so-
going to construct it.
Agreed.
So the
Now
county shall...
looking at C2D, where's that?
That's on page 18.
So maybe we can just, what were you going to say, Peter? Are we just going to
Let me-
clarify
yeah.
on two?
The county shall work to to facilitate the acquisition of right-of-way or rights-of-way to construct alternate routes through or around Valley Springs, period.
Yeah.
I would suggest prepare and adopt a precise alignment for bypass routes, plural, for state routes 12 and 26 around the community of Valley Springs.
Do we want to say alternate route rather than bypass
Yes.
to be
Fine.
consistent?
Yes.
Yes.
So prepare and adopt a precise alignment for alternate routes for state routes 12 and 26 around or through the community of Valley Springs.
Around or through?
Trying to be consistent.
Proximate to Valley Springs.
Yeah.
No, we
I don't
know.
have-
I think that's good. I mean,
Okay.
you know, leaves it,
Fine.
Leaves it open,
yeah,
Madam Chair, can I call for an emergency?
sure. You need a break?
Yeah,
So how much break time do you need?
I need a short one.
Short one, like 5 minutes?
Yes, ma'am.
So we'll recess until 10:20. We'll give you 6.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, we jumped to an implementation measure, but basically we're on page 15. If you guys could take your seats, please. Excuse me. Could you take, yes, please.
With that mallet.
Could you, yeah. I don't want, don't make me use the, so are there other comments on circulation?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Finish up.
I'm on page 17, C-1B, greenhouse gases. It says, when preparing capital improvement plans and reviewing development proposals, the county shall consider projects which minimize greenhouse gas impacts, etc. I thought we had discussed this and decided to put the word favorably before consider, because otherwise it doesn't really say anything.
I like that.
I
It
agree.
it does sound,
I think you're right, we did.
yes, I believe we did, yeah. Okay. Next.
I'll just do my last one, which is 2E on page 18, strictly typos, I think. The last phrase says, and correlate distribution with collection. I think they should be plural, distributions with collections.
Which item was that, Kelly?
Page C18,
2E,
number
the very last one.
C-2E.
The bottom of 18.
That's fine.
What was the word?
It's just making it plural, and where the.
Oh, correlates.
Yeah, and correlates, and correlates distribution with collection, and correlate distributions with collections.
Oh.
One of the two.
Let's add the S to correlates.
Okay. So it would read, and correlates distribution with collection.
Okay.
That's all I had.
Okay. Lisa, you had some?
I was going to go back to the rim fee, the basin fee, but as I'm reading it now, I'm okay with it, because I wanted to make sure that the rim fee stated that it was for improvements versus the gas tax being for maintenance.
So you're good
Just for
now.
clarity purposes, I'm okay with that. But then back on page 10, I had a question. There was an edit done in the second sentence. None of these has been adopted or have been Isn't have more appropriate than has? Am I reading that right?
Which sentence are
I'm
you
not
on?
sure where you're at. You're the grammar expert. Last paragraph on page 10, none of these have or has been.
It should be has because the reference, the subject is none, which
None
is singular.
is singular.
Okay. I think you covered my other questions, so we're good.
All right, so are there any other comments on the circulation element? No. All right, is there anyone in the public that would like to provide comments, suggestions on the circulation element?
I'm Peter Reyes from Jenny Lynn. I'm a neighbor to Rancho Calaveras, CSA 1. And I do have a few problems over there, what was discussed. I know how much you want to comply with all the different laws, but there's something called the Constitution over there in the California Constitution called Prop 218. And there's one little segment over there that states you cannot charge a property owner for any benefit related to his property if that benefit's available to the public at large. Rancho is a very open and good example of like not complying with that constitutional thing. No roads in Rancho area is not available to the public at large. And Public Works, matter of fact, I don't like to make it a personal issue, but willing to charge residents and property owners for not doing a service because they decided not to do any service, contrary to LAFCO's direction, but they do want to charge for administering it, of doing nothing. Now, if it's a gated community, bless their hearts. Those roads are not available to the public at large. They can put a gate up there whenever they want to. They can accept whoever they want to. They have to check with the cop or whatever they're entering. But if that road is available to the public at large, and I emphasize on available, I don't get a traffic count, but if that road, that benefit's available to the public at large, you cannot charge the property owner on that section because extra money. Everybody in the county who drives a car contributes to the roads. Everybody, except for the bicycle riders. That's obvious. But you cannot charge somebody for a benefit related to the property if that benefit's available to the public at large. And folks, next to the last paragraph, the burden of proof is on the agency. Now, I'm the last one to believe in litigations and stuff, okay? Usually like to see public rationale come in. The way I look at it, it's a fix for public work to administer it and take a nice big chunk for administering it. If somebody in any community wants to maintain their own roads, it's a gated community, they can form a Prop 218 special district. And this requirement, when Prop 218 was passed, past, present, and future benefits required. You can say whatever you want to, you can rewrite it and make it pretty, dress it up, but still, Prop 218 is basically in the Constitution. You cannot charge somebody for a benefit, property-related benefit, if it's available at public at large. Now, when you get the gas, there's a couple of different sources of money coming for the road, related to roads. And maybe somebody can check with Rebecca Collins on it, because we got into that. There's not just the gas tax that we pay, whatever we get after Sacramento skims off and everything. But there's a couple of different income comes to the county. And it's an easy way to do it. It's 5 districts. Whatever dollar you get, just divide it 5 ways and put it in each district. Don't pick on Valley Spring, folks. Don't pick on the 5th district. Comply with Prop 218, and if that's not a big deal, it shouldn't be controversial, put it in there, that any and all fees and charges will comply with the letter and the spirit of Prop 218. That shouldn't offend anybody. That was passed by over 2/3 in this state.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? All right, so I'll bring it back to the Planning Commission. I guess, are there any other edits based on public comment you'd like or discussion?
Well, discussion, yes. I'd like to hear from Public Works again on the Prop 218 factor.
Robert?
Good morning. When we were discussing about the permanent road division, there is a whole process within that code section in Streets and Highways Code that discusses how that is put in place. It includes a vote of the people that intend to be within that permanent road division, and that's the process that will take place. So it might be a little bit different than the Prop 218. Well, it's a separate process. It's contained within that section of code.
Okay, so the code requires that the property owners affected agree to pay into a fund to maintain their road. Even if the road is available to the public at large, meaning there's no gate and there's no security requirement or ownership requirement to use the road, because that makes it voluntary, that makes it a voluntary fee that those property owners agree to, and therefore 218 doesn't come into play. Did I interpret you right?
I think perhaps the best that I could do is get that section, that code section. Give me 1 second.
Sure.
While he's doing that, we have to abide by Prop 218 regardless. I mean, it's state law and very clear. Any kind of fee that we establish, after Prop 218 was passed, we have to abide by it. I don't know as far as the timing of when the road fund that was established, CSA 1 for Rancho, I'm thinking it probably predated Prop 218. But I don't know. These are things that County Council looks at very closely when we establish a fee or any kind of program like this. And I certainly don't want to try to, play attorney here. I'm not one, so I won't pretend to be one and say, oh yes, here's what the law requires. We would have to meet whatever legal requirements and standards there are in establishing any fee program, that it doesn't cover more than the costs associated with what it is that we're trying to accomplish. So if it's road maintenance, I'm not sure that I agree with Mr. Ray's interpretation that just because someone else drives on the road means that we can't collect money for it. I think that if the developer of a subdivision, and typically when we establish these things, it's, as the map is being recorded, at the same time the final map comes forward, they're saying, here's how I want to maintain it. We're going to have it a private road. We're going to have it a public road. We're offering for dedication with the final map. So there's 1 or 2 property owners that are involved in these elections to decide to impose this fee upon themselves and on the future buyers of the lots within that subdivision. But they're weighing the benefits and detriments of having this be funded as a public road and allowing anyone to drive on it, or wanting to gate it or make it private. It doesn't have to be gated, but to make them privately maintained. Whoever buys the property will obviously know that, here are the fees associated with this. Lisa, you'd probably be much more clear on this, but, there's a huge, long disclosure of all the various things that go with that property, and if there's a tax requirement for ongoing maintenance, that's going to be disclosed when that lot or a home is sold. So, get sidetracked there.
When you say tax requirement, you mean a fee requirement like an HOA, even if there is no HOA? There's no HOA for the community, but to buy this piece of property, there's a codicil, is that the right word? That requires the owner to pay into a fund?
So if there's a special
I'm asking.
taxing mechanism in place to fund the roads, a CSA 1 or a permanent road division, that's going to be something that's part of the disclosure when that property is sold.
So, okay, when you're dealing with private roads and the homeowners association has a fund set up and a fee, it's not a tax. It's
Right,
a
it's a
fee
fee.
that's collected for maintenance of those roads.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what we're doing is confusing the two, because we're not talking about private roads at this point, we're talking about public roads. And if the homeowners association has set up a fee structure for managing those roads, there's a special designated fund for those funds. If the county takes over and it becomes a public road, it's a completely, entirely different setup.
Right.
And those people wouldn't have that structure through their HOA anymore. It would be through the county directly. I'm hearing what Mr. Reyes is saying about Prop 218, and you're saying you wouldn't take on a public roadway unless it's a connector and it's going to add a drive-through system, because obviously what do we want to take on a dead-end road for? At that point, it becomes a public used road. So I think my biggest concern is when we're collecting fees from somebody like Peter, are those adjusted fees to take into account that the public is also driving on those roads? So the gas tax that's collected and the maintenance on that road, is that taken into consideration, and maintenance road fees are going to be, or collections are going to be used for that, and that they're just paying a subsidy? Or are they paying the entire maintenance even though the county's taken it over?
I could only speak about going forward. I don't have enough history in regards to CSA 1. I do know that they have their payment. There are some roads within the geographic area that are what I would consider the geographic area of CSA 1. For example, Baldwin, that's a county maintained road. That's the main road that goes through that CSA. The people that pay into the CSA are not paying for the maintenance of Baldwin. That's entirely county maintained. So, but I'd have to research that history and see how all the different roads are funded. But if in theory, it would seem that you're correct. The main roads that are public benefit, like for example, Baldwin, those are in the county maintained system. The little local residential roads are in the CSA system funded by the CSA.
This is just my personal thoughts, but this has a very big impact on the county residences moving forward. If we don't want to study what's behind us, but we're looking at what's going forward, I'd like more information. I'd like to know more about how that structure is going to be played out. What portion of the homeowners are going to be paying for that maintenance to a road that's going to become public and other people are going to drive on? We could say, hey, it looks great, let's just adopt it, but then we may be doing things that aren't quite right for people.
Let me ask you, are you speaking in particular about the permanent road division option?
Yes.
Okay, in the permanent road division option, there's two ways that roads are within the permanent road division. It's by petition of the homeowners, and it goes through a whole process of voting and so forth. There are hearings. And the other way is just a resolution. People can go to the Board of Supervisors, and the board may wish to do it. There's a resolution of intent, and then the whole process is all laid out here. Still the same process of voting and hearing and so
Okay.
forth and so on.
On
So
that voting, say you have 10 homeowners on one street, and 6 of them say, I want this, and 4 of them say, I don't. Is this require a 100%, or is it 50% and plus 1, and they're good to go?
Two-thirds.
It's 2/3. So if you're a homeowner that bought in this area and you bought for specific reasons and didn't want to be a part of that, you're stuck with it no matter what.
Plus, this can be the condition of developer to proceed, that you get in there, developer gets out of there.
So this is mostly going to apply to new development, or would it require to existing as well?
This is primarily for new development. It's, I guess, feasible that someone could say, hey, we're in this private road system right now. It's not working for us because people are refusing to pay, the homeowners association has gone defunct, and no one's maintaining the roads. We want to petition the county, and I think this is what Robert is getting at. You could petition the county to form a CSA or Permanent Road Division. I don't know why I can't keep remembering that. And then you could establish one of these for an existing system. I think that's probably less likely than you would see for a new project that's moving forward, and they want to see, okay, we need to know how the road's going to be maintained.
Retroactively, it would require a 2/3 vote of the property owners affected.
But if it's new development, you're not technically going to have new property owners needing to vote on that. That's going to be the structure of the new development
Correct.
up
Right.
front.
A condition of purchase.
Condition
So
of
that's
approval,
not going to be an issue that's being weighed in on here, right?
for new development, they'll go through that process, but
Right.
the developer is the main property owner, so yeah.
Correct. So I don't have to worry about 10 votes. On the issue of existing roadways, there is state law that has road maintenance agreements, doesn't matter who you are, where you bought your road, there is state law that supersedes those road maintenance agreements. So that would become a civil issue for those homeowners, not so much an issue for the county.
That's correct. It's Civil Code Section 845, and that discusses proportional maintenance of a
Right.
private road.
Right.
The road maintenance agreement was a mechanism to help perhaps avoid some of those conflicts, but it's a weak mechanism.
Well, with the funding available for the improvement of our roads, I don't really see us taking on too many new roads anyway. Not unless it's for a connector that we're looking at putting in.
And I'll confirm it is 2/3.
It is
Two-thirds.
2/3. Okay.
I know Robert's heard my sad story enough times, but he's not through yet. But let me just, for the purpose of this discussion, bring up the fact that there were a lot of people in my neighborhood who were stunned to find out that their front property, their frontage, is on the other side of the street they live on.
Huh?
The street is on their front yard.
Good surveying job.
And, no, it wasn't a surveying job, this is a different problem. But just so you know, there are some complicated things in this county as far as where the roads are and who owns them. H&E was stunned to find out that they wanted to put in a gas line to first serve my part of San Andreas, and they had to get an easement from me, and I live across the street from that. Didn't matter, because that's where my property, that's where my front yard is. So it's complicated.
So, Robert, when we're looking at Prop 218, putting that into the general plan isn't going to play much of a significant role, because when you are making the decisions with a developer or somebody, a subdivision that wants to be taken over as public, that is going to be part of the process no matter what, right?
The process is spelled out entirely within the Streets and Highways Code.
Okay.
Complete.
Do you guys want to reference the code? We've done that in previous revisions in here.
Well, I thought that this was just one alternative that was
Right.
available.
That's right.
So
And there could be other changes in the future that might come up with different alternatives. I mean, every agency is struggling with this idea, this issue of how do you fund ongoing maintenance
Right.
of public facilities. So I'm sure that other people will come up with new ideas. I would hate to sort of limit it to just one option.
My only suggestion would be that if Peter thinks it wise, that he make sure county council is okay with the language that we have here as being in compliance with Prop 218, because there does seem to be a difference of opinion between Peter Race and Mr. Maurer about how that should be construed.
I'm not sure it's the language of the policy so much. I think it's the current practice or current situation with Rancho that he was referring to. And I just don't know enough about, the specifics of how the money is collected for that and how it's spent. And I don't think it's the language of the policy so much that was the issue.
Well, as I heard him, he's saying if the benefit is available to the public, in other words, it's not a gated community, then Prop 218 applies, and you can't charge a fee. And our language is, as long as it benefits non-project related traffic, you can't charge a fee. Those are two different things. And my only concern is that we get it right in terms of what Prop 218 requires, just in terms of the language. I understand the concept. I want to make sure we get it so it's going to be legally correct.
Chair, can I just one comment on
Sure.
On the 218, it's all past, present, and future, not just
Please state your name for the
past,
record.
present, and future.
Mr. Race, please state your name again near the podium.
Yes, since you asked me so nice, it's Peter Race from Jenny Lynn.
Thank you.
But Prop 218, past, present, and future, and any burden of proof in challenge is on the agency's expense. Also, that's the last, next to the last paragraph. Take a look at it.
I guess looking at it again, in light of the discussion, 216, where it says the county shall only accept new roads into the county maintained system, I'm wondering if the word new should be in there, because there seems to be an alternative to accept roads that already exist. That's always going to be the case. So I guess maybe new doesn't belong there. I mean, if it's not in the system, then it's new to the county, no matter
Yeah.
what.
I'm good with that.
Take new out.
That's fine. And then just maybe double check
I
with
will
county
double check
council,
with council.
and then we're good?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, but to clarify, because we're going back a little bit now, did we agree that benefit non-project related traffic should be deleted?
We were going to reorganize that. It was going to read, the county shall only accept roads into the county maintained system when such roads are built to county standards, have a forecasted acceptable level of service, and either have a funding mechanism in place for road maintenance
Oh, that's
or
right. Or.
benefit nonprofit related traffic, project related traffic.
So are we good to close the chapter on circulation at this point with these revisions?
I think so.
You want me to just quickly go through what changes that we
Sure,
made?
that would be good. Thank you.
So we rearranged on page 1, took the part of that sentence out and moved it down into the third paragraph, adding a few words so it fits about the concept of complete streets. I think the next change was not until page...
Did you add the period after it also addresses transportation funding?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, ended that. Page 14, the wording I just read for 216. We also modified 218 to put the, or other design features to reduce encroachments, et cetera. Page 15, 2.24, we revised slightly to add through or around, took out future. On page 17, added the word favorably to measure C1B. And on page 18, we modified C-2D to correspond with the policy and added S to correlates on 2E. And I think that
Wait a
is it.
second, you're
We
just
added-
describing 2D?
2D, we modified prepare and adopt precise alignment for alternate routes for state routes 12 and 26.
Right.
Through or around Community Valley Springs. And then on 2E, we added S. We corrected the grammar.
Okay.
Those are the changes that I marked.
All right, so we'll,
Maybe a motion to accept
there we
that
go.
as
Do we have a
your-
motion to accept the revised circulation element
And recommend it to the board?
and recommend it to the board?
Make a
Well,
motion.
wait a second, I'm sorry, but do we not have to first get an answer back on 216 and 217?
I think we've made
We
those
need-
changes.
I think that if, I can report back to you, and if we need to, we can revisit it. And if county council says, no, it's fine, then I'll just
Then you just
report
pass it on?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I understand the motion.
Well, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. No, we've concluded public comment, I believe.
On this particular issue, 215, 216.
I believe we've concluded public comment.
Yeah.
Yes, so if there's a motion, is there a second?
Yes.
All right, moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. So we're moving to conservation and open space. We have the revised element provided in our packet. So
I would like to make a request that we revisit the introduction. Received an email from Sierra Pacific Industries, I think we all received it, regarding some concerns that they had, and I think we should have discussion on it if anybody else is willing to.
And just for the public, I put a copy of that memo on the table. It wasn't posted on our website, in case anyone from the public was interested in seeing that. That did come in after we had concluded our discussion previously on the rest of the element. We were just going to come back and revisit Commissioner Wooster's recommended goal and policies. Also up there are copies of the email that I sent to you with brief cover memo, as well as my suggested edits that you got, but it also hadn't been posted on our website, so that's up at the podium there for anyone who wants to see that.
and I'm fine with discussion of the introduction.
Okay.
Okay, well, I too think we should revisit the introduction. And there are two things that I think have given us a little trouble here and have caused SPI to send the message that they did. One is, we attempted in the first paragraph of the introduction to essentially paraphrase the government code. I think it's 65560B that defines open space land. And we did so, we sort of shorthanded it a little bit, and I think we may have lost something in the process because the SPI letter interprets what we did here differently than I think we had intended.
I agree.
And I think what we should do on that is track the government code more closely, and let me make these suggestions. I would take the second sentence, open space land as addressed in the California Government Code includes, and then strike the rest of that, a wide range of land uses, and simply say includes land, and now I'm going pretty much to the code, that is essentially unimproved and devoted to an open space use as set forth below, comma, and designated on, which is what the statute says, an open space plan as any of the following. And then what the statute says, following each of the, in front of each of the bullet points, is open space for the preservation, et cetera, open space for the managed production of resources. And I think it's important to do that because the designation has to be as open space, not just for the preservation of natural resources or the managed production of resources. That's the first part of my suggested fix here. The second part goes down to the second paragraph, second sentence, which I think inadvertently may have triggered some requirements that were not meant to be triggered. It says resource production, open space lands include Williamson Act contracted lands and so forth. If you go to the rest of that paragraph, none of the others say open space. They just say public lands include, recreational lands include, and so forth. If you change that second sentence to read consistent with the others, resource production lands include Williamson Act contracted lands, et cetera, then you have eliminated what is at best an ambiguity here about what you're doing. And those are my suggested changes that were generated really by the SPI letter that brought my attention back to this, because I have to confess, I did miss it the first time through.
We all did.
The second paragraph essentially was new language that came in the previous draft, and I just didn't read it closely enough.
Can you go back over your suggestion on paragraph 1?
Yes.
You take the second sentence, and after includes, you write land.
That is essentially unimproved and devoted to an open space use as set forth below.
And we keep the bullets? Those are the below?
Yes.
Okay.
And designated on, instead of by, an open space plan as any of the following. And then essentially track the statute. Open space land, or open space for the preservation of natural resources. Open space used for the managed production of resources, and so forth down to bullet points.
Okay, but one of SPI's issues is with the phrase open space plan,
Right.
as possibly indicating something other than the open space element. So in your sentence construction, you would just, if you just eliminated the word plan.
Well, the thing is, we're trying to track the government code here. And what the government code says is, on the designation part, and that is designated on a local, regional, or state open space plan. That's the language the statute uses.
Okay.
And so that's why I left it in.
Okay. Is the state using plan and element interchangeably?
There is, I need to find it, there is a definition here
For the open space plan.
of an open space plan.
Yeah.
Maybe I can find it, maybe I can't. It's not in my little collection of statutes, but I do believe it's quoted in the SPI letter.
I think I have it. I'm just trying to locate it.
Is it 65560?
Yes. Yeah, it's right at top. Local open space plan is the open space element of a
Yes.
county or city general plan.
That's their point, is that.
It is, but I think their point essentially is taking issue with what the statute says.
We, in effect, are intending to use it interchangeably. We are not distinguishing we don't have an open space plan as distinct from our overall open space element.
That is correct.
Yes.
And that's because the
And that was
statute,
always our intent.
and that's what the statute essentially says in 65560A. It says local open space plan is the open space element of a county general plan adopted by the board.
So if it's being defined that way in 65560, why can't we just say that it's the open space element? So that it doesn't reference as if though it is another document to be looking for. I mean, I understand staying the consistency with the ruling, but when you're reading it, it's like you're going to be looking for another plan. Is it our intent to develop another plan based on that, or is it just going to be the element?
I believe it's just the element.
Then I'd like to
Yeah.
change the word to element, because it's, if you go to 65560, it says open space plan is the open space element. So let's leave it one word and not cause confusion looking for more documents later.
We could change that to designate on this open space element,
Yeah,
I think
or
that probably
in this
works.
element.
okay.
Agreed.
You good with that?
I'm fine with that. So, any other on the introduction, or
That's all I had on the introduction.
are you good with that, Lisa?
I had notes, let me look at my notes real
Okay.
quick. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Yep, I'm good.
Um,
What about COS
I-
2A, COSA?
Which second here?
We need to go, can we go to COSA real quick and just see what the reference was there?
Sure.
In the underlined, review the county code and revise as necessary.
What page are you on?
I'm sorry, page
16.
16.
Okay, thank you.
Review the county code and revise as necessary or adopt a new, I think you can cross the S on opens for plural.
No.
Right.
And I'm fine with that.
Can we back up a little bit? I have a page 12 comment. Kelly, did you have something before that?
No.
On the page 12, middle of the page, goals for the biological. My memory is that my notes were that a new goal, a second goal in that section had been proposed by Commissioner Wooster. Am I wrong about that? Is that bad notes?
I can't remember.
Okay, if you can't, then that's
I'm
fine.
looking at my notes right now.
Okay.
I think that we had talked about that in the context of proposed new goal and policies, but then we realized that it really goes beyond just biological resources. It was sort of brought up through this discussion, and I still haven't quite figured out where would be the best place to locate it. That's why I labeled it X, because it was so unknown at this point. So I don't think that we're going to add, my notes didn't show us adding any other goals here, that we were going to create a separate sort of section on forest health.
Yes, that's because it cut across many
Right.
of these goals.
Yeah, my note's not showing that another
Yeah.
goal either.
Okay.
That's now, I think, goal X.
Right.
My next comments are on 13. The goals at the top of the page. 3B. Greenhouse gas emissions associated with vehicular traffic, electric power generation, energy use, and I recommend inserting "and wildfires" in compliance with state goals and standards. And the reason I'm suggesting wildfires comes out of our discussion, lengthy discussion on this point where, because of the makeup of this county and what our contribution to AB 32 can conceivably consist of, one of the factors is to reduce the possibility of a future butte-sized fire. And in doing so, we reduce the possibility of many thousands of tons of carbon dioxide, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So where we take measures to mitigate those possibilities, we get points, if you will, toward our obligations vis-a-vis AB 32. Can you agree with that concept?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I would be actually a little concerned about adding wildfires in there. Is somehow we have to sort of calculate what that would be, and then are we somehow on the hook if there's another catastrophic fire?
Well, let me address the first part of your concern. Isn't it all a matter of calculation and modeling as to whether or not measures are creating a positive impact? And against, and in fact, against a standard that is itself a model, produced from a model.
Right.
That is one of the issues I have with the whole greenhouse gas pluses and minuses calculations going forward, is that it is in large part based on modeling, some of which is kind of easy. If you can say, well, we've reduced vehicular miles traveled by county residents by 10%, we know how many tons of carbon dioxide that is. But some of the modeling is very speculative, I'm sure. Where do we get credit for taking measures that might be extremely significant as contributions to this particular cause? I think prevention of wildfires, even if a wildfire happens, it doesn't mean we didn't prevent one. It doesn't mean that we didn't prevent it from becoming larger. That's all modeling.
You know what, I think, David, if you're okay with this, I would like to move through this, go to X, work through X and see what the end result is of X before adding that in there.
I'm for going to the X factor and then coming back. That's fine with me.
Before we do that, are there other comments on the existing text before that? Just so that we can move through those.
And we did, basically close this out if there was just any sort of inaccuracies in my...
Right, yeah. We're not
if we can not
reopening it.
revisit the discussion of the last
Right.
3 meetings, that would be good.
And I had as an alternative in my notes that treating wildfire mitigation, or wildfire possibility mitigation, whatever you want to call it, could be a separate goal. So that you distinguish between what might be goals that are more easily measured.
We will have some very specific goals and policies related to wildfire and the safety element.
Okay. And that's fine. My concept is that those goals should count in our favor as a checklist on toward our greenhouse gas mitigation obligation. Because they do two things.
Yeah.
They save forests, they save money, and they save air pollution. That's my whole point.
Right, I understand.
So nothing major, so should we go to goal X?
Do you want to see if anyone has comments on the changes?
To the introduction?
To the introduction section, because really the only thing new other than some just verifying the edits that we made before.
Would you want to do that now, or do you want to save it for after
Just see if
discussion
anyone-
of X?
I don't think anybody's going to have too much.
Okay, does anyone have any comments on suggested revisions by the commission to the introduction?
I'm Peter Race from Jenny Lynn. Can anybody hear me? Good, thank you. I do like to have the last word. And one of them is, you keep referring to Valley Spring, folks. There's 2 different districts in Valley Spring. The last time I checked, there's no incorporated thing as Valley Spring. And I do resent my area. I don't care who claims Valley Spring, their Valley Spring. I live in the 5th district, folks. So when you refer to Valley Spring, please, there's 2 separate districts there. There's a 5th district and there's a 1st district that's near Valley Spring. And I have no way to associate the people who claim to be representing Valley Spring. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else wanted
There's
to?
2 different, there's no
Thank you,
incorporated.
Mr. Race. Thank
You're
you.
welcome, ma'am.
Anyone would like to address the commission on the introduction to the conservation open space element? Nope, okay, so let's dig into healthy forest, woodlands, and rangelands.
So Commissioner Wooster had provided his language, and Annette was very good at deciphering the scribbles. We had fun doing that. And then we talked a couple times about how they might actually fit into the context of the plan. I have provided you with a brief memo and some suggested edits in a separate memo email to you dated March 8th. I apologize, we did not get those posted on our website, but I did provide copies here for the public, for those who are interested in that. Just after sending that out, we received an email from Colleen Platt that provided some additional or other alternative edits that could be considered as well. So we have the original set of policies and implementation measures as crafted by Commissioner Wooster, my suggestions, as well as a third set from Colleen Platt. I think you also received an email that should have been in your packet from, I think it was Muriel Zeller, that discussed her suggestions as well. So we'll open up for discussion.
So do you want us to work off of your notes or work off of the original from Kelly?
Well,
I would suggest the email version, the most recent one.
Okay.
Unless there are something that you really felt that, no, I was going down the wrong path there. David saying, no.
Yeah. With this version, which includes Kelly's original and your recommendations, which took into consideration whatever you had up to that point.
Right.
Then this should be our starting point.
That's what I would suggest.
Work off of this one, is my suggestion.
Okay.
I would like to work off of Peter Mauer's version.
Okay, great.
And I guess maybe I'll start with the goal itself. I think is very close to, if not identical to, the one that Muriel Zeller proposed, and I think it's good.
Yeah.
I did not include water quality because I think it slipped my mind that when you have a butte-type fire, water quality does suffer. And this is supposed to try to prevent butte-type fires. And I think her point about scenic resources is well taken because, as I think Mr. McManus said at one point, that some places you drive here, it's like going through a tunnel. You can't see anything. And this would assist in that. So I like the goal as revised. And I'm actually fine with all of Peter's other changes with two suggestions. And one is COSX.2, support the management of oak woodlands, chaparral, and other brushlands to minimize fire hazards and promote healthy habitat and productive grazing land through brush removal, through the use of prescribed fire burning, mechanical removal, and other means. I think the phrase "through brush removal" is too limiting and doesn't need to be there. And my last suggestion is...
Well, can we stop on that one for a minute, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Because I'm not seeing a big difference between X1 and X2 as revised. They look like they're talking about the same policy, the way I read it.
What I did was sort of combine the original 2 and 3 to look at woodlands and chaparral, because often they're sort of intertwined, and then sort of reword it to be more in the language of a policy. Say we're going to support management. You know, there's many different things we could do to do that. So the language is very similar. It was intended to be very similar, to try to hit the same point that Commissioner Wooster was trying to get at with both of those, the intent of to thin and use prescribed burning to remove excess brush and vegetation so that it's a healthier environment.
And the difference being one is for forests and the other is a broader category of woodlands, chaparral, and brushlands, right?
So X1 is, yeah, they're very, very similar.
Right, but one
is
is
for
for-
forest,
right.
and the other
I
one
think
is
that's
for
the
woodland and
difference.
chaparral. Maybe I misunderstood the question, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, and 2 refers to productive grazing land, which belongs where it is. It is true that if you do get rid of the brush and small trees in the county forests, it's kind of a byproduct of that. It's better grazing land too, but that's not the primary goal there.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, my other suggestion is the last policy, COXS.4, was an implementation measure in my version. And I think I prefer it to be there because if it's not there, then the only corresponding implementation measure is XE, the Watershed Improvement Program, which says support and participate in the Sierra Nevada Watershed Improvement Program. And that's a fine implementation measure that was suggested by Muriel Zeller too, so far as I could read it.
Yes.
The only problem that I have with that is it's too narrow. Number one, the Forest Service is in charge of that. And their focus is on their ground and the conifer forests. And I'm not convinced that they always move as quickly or effectively as all other, some other agencies. And the second problem is that would tend to ignore the brushlands and the chaparral and so forth. And so that's why I wanted to move X.4 back to being an implementation measure.
In support of which policy? Policies?
1 and...
Point 1 and point 2?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Actually, all 3 of them.
But I would be most interested to hear Commissioner Lisa's comments on the WIP, the Watershed Improvement Program.
I have them as well.
So, you want to go first? You want me to?
What did you do? I think
Before you leave X.4, just to be, a suggestion might be instead of calling them interested agencies, they're more than interested, is that you might consider calling them like stakeholder agencies.
I don't think it really matters to me.
Well, it's not interested, it's like I'm interested, but
Well,
this list are actually, they're invested, they have a dog in the fight. To me, that they're stakeholder agencies, which creates a higher responsibility.
that's the word I would pick up on, responsible agencies.
That's fine.
Responsible is probably a little better.
Sure.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at that and we look at the fact that we know that Sierra Pacific Industries owns a whole lot of land, I would want them to be included in this process of a responsible agency, but they wouldn't be because they're private.
But they have responsibilities for their own land.
We could add and private property
And-
owners.
I would
Yeah.
like to add that.
Good catch.
Yeah, are there other,
Yeah.
I'm fine with the rest of it. Are there other comments on this?
I'm good all the way through to XE.
Okay.
13, let's see. I had a note on D, XD, but I have to refer to another page. Let's see. Oh, no, we're going to get to that later. Thank you. Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay. On the watershed improvement program, support and participate in the Sierra Nevada Watershed Improvement Program. I think when we had this original discussion with everybody, everyone was very optimistic about the RCD program that Supervisor Edson is working on. I think that if the voters decide to pass that in June, that is a better fit for what we're trying to accomplish here in using that program instead of the Sierra Nevada Watershed Improvement Program. I think that until the voters pass it, obviously, it's not something we can say, hey, let's put it in there. But as we've done with the community plans, we've left placeholders for that in there to insert it later. And I would much rather say if the voters decide in June to pass the RCD program, that we go and work within that program and add that to this implementation versus the Sierra Nevada Improvement Program.
Is it an either or is it both?
Yeah.
Because I thought the
I went on
RCD
and I
really
read
more
a lot
applied
about
to...
the Sierra Nevada Watershed Improvement Program, and I have a lot of big concerns around that. I'm a little bit hesitant to even consider adding it to the general plan.
Well, I read it because it came to me for the first time. There's including the memorandum of understanding between essentially the Forest Service and the state. It's a little hard to get through. Sort of typical bureaucratic verbiage that says a lot when a few words could do, I think. Having said that, and I suppose other than the statements in there that, oh, we have terrible problems with our meadows we need to fix, which I don't agree with, but it's sort of beside the point. I didn't really see a big problem with it, but there may be that I didn't see them.
Where the watershed management would otherwise be conducted by the proposed RCD project, I'm all in favor of RCD, local control, local plan. I think we can do it better than a state agency. I would like for us not to turn over responsibility. I don't think that's exactly what this means, but I would not like to see the state assume any responsibility where we come up with our own plan. Other than that, what does support and participate in the Sierra Nevada imply? How do you participate in it if it's talking about lands that the county doesn't have any control over?
Well, my intent there was that we have a seat at the table when we're talking about the programs and policies that come out of that program, that we, make sure that our, the county's interests are represented. And obviously one of those is to rehabilitate the forests, make it more resilient. And so that if, to the ability that we can, it's a memorandum between, you said, the Forest Service and the state, how do we get involved in that? How do we make sure that we're involved in it?
I think that if the voters approve in June, they will have spoken very loudly that they want local control of handling this. And that RCD program will be working with RCRC. They will be working with all of the different Sierra Nevada watershed implementation programs that are out there, and I think that that would put a placeholder in there for us so that we have better local control in the involvement that we want to bring in. I don't want to see conflicts where we're going in one direction and then another watershed program comes in and we've got overlapping going on in there. I personally, my preference would be to leave it that if the voters pass it in June, that we leave a placeholder there, that we work within our local RCD.
If, adding to what Lisa just said, if participation in Sierra Nevada is embedded in the RCD plan,
I think that they are separate, separate programs, and I'm not sure, but I'm pretty certain that the RCD program does not apply to federal lands. That the Forest Service has the full management responsibility.
as a complete package, does it reference the county's participation in Sierra Nevada?
On the WIP, the watershed improvement?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Does the RCD reference that?
Yes.
I don't know.
Lisa, was that the comment that you were trying to?
It was, and I'm trying to
you're
get
looking it up now?
I'm trying to get a quick answer for us.
But if it does, to give the people the complete picture of what the plan is, we do this on properties that we can, and we make sure that our interests are represented with respect to the federal lands.
Right.
Then that's enough. That accomplishes this implementation measure. Or this, is it a policy statement or
It's a
implementation
measure, yeah. My experience with RCDs is that they typically don't get involved in resource management on federal lands. There may be some coordination because it is, essentially funded through the Natural Resource Conservation Service, a federal agency, and there may be some overlap, but I don't think there is, a complete, sort of takeover of management activities through an RCD of what will be happening on the federal forest.
No. Maybe I didn't make myself clear. This doesn't talk about our involvement in the federal program either, other than we want to make sure that our voice is heard.
Right.
Okay, so to that extent, if the RCD referenced that same activity on lands that it does not directly, that aren't directly involved in it.
So when an RCD is established, it will be a separate entity, a separate agency than the county. It will overlap as far as geographic boundaries, but it's not, there's a separate board. I think the board is an interim board for the RCD, but then ultimately there's new board members appointed or elected, and then they are off doing their own thing. Obviously, there would be a lot of coordination, and hopefully there would be a lot of coordination between the county board, commission, staff, and the RCD. We work closely in other jurisdictions with RCDs. It's been very beneficial. It's also primarily to assist private property owners with resource management issues as opposed to what happens on federal or state lands. So I don't think it's one or the other. I think you sort of need to look at both. Now, whether or not this watershed improvement program is the best solution to management of the forest, I think we'll have to wait and see. Proof is in the pudding that what comes out of that. But the idea with measures that we participate, and maybe support is not the right word. Maybe if there are programs that come out of that, measures that come out of that program that help get us to where we want to be, a healthy forest, then yeah, let's support it. Let's participate in it to make sure that it's not just a plan that's adopted, put on a shelf, and nothing ever happens. That okay, what happened with these ideas that came out of this WIP that was supposed to help make our forest more resilient.
Okay, so quick answers for you. The RCD does work with federal lands and private. Also, I had one more answer here. The Calaveras Watershed Management Program and the RCD, once implemented, any watershed improvement program or project must first be cleared through the RCD and the Board of Supervisors to be in line with the goals and objectives of the county and the general plan. They do work with the Sierra Nevada, but they're saying that this power, they could actually overrule the RCD, so to use caution there, and those are the answers that I'm getting. So I don't know how you guys feel, if you want to consider doing a placeholder for the RCD, knowing that the RCD will work with the Sierra Nevada Watershed Program, and it also covers private and federal lands. The election's not that far away, and we're going to have those answers before us, and I think keeping local control is so much better than passing the buck.
I agree, and at the minimum, there ought to be a placeholder for the watershed management program, regardless of whether we accept its reference to the federal land programs or not.
Well, we have to include the federal participation because, the bulk of our county is the federal lands, and there's where a lot of our problems are existing. We are surrounded by that.
My point being that if, hypothetically, the watershed management ballot measure fails. Okay. Then...
The RCD.
Pardon?
The RCD ballot measure.
RCD,
yeah.
Thank you. Then we don't have a program for our lands at all, and the Sierra Nevada is with respect to federal lands only, correct? State and federal?
That's good.
Right? So we would need this or something like it in place.
So you could say something like support and participate in efforts such as the Sierra Nevada Watershed Improvement Program that strive to establish and maintain healthy forests. It kind of...
Read that first part again, please.
Support and participate in efforts such as the Sierra Nevada Watershed Improvement Program that strive to establish and maintain healthy forests. You don't need that's sort of inclusive of local...
Then if something else comes along,
That's right,
like the
it's already
watershed,
included.
It's included.
And as far as what that support and participate, that role is really left at, it's not mandated by anybody, the role is left up to the county and what role it wants to play in the watershed improvement program or some other program that may become available.
I don't have any objection to that.
Could you read it one more time for him, please?
Support and participate in efforts such as the Sierra Nevada Watershed Improvement Program that strive to establish and maintain healthy forests, or with the goal of, or something.
Without that in there at all, aren't we participating in it anyway?
First I heard of it was when I got an email from Ms. Zeller last week.
That particular program.
That particular program. I don't know if there's someone else at the county level that has participated, but the first time I've heard of it.
Wouldn't they have come knocking regardless?
It might have been. It's been something in the works for several years, and my predecessor was involved and just didn't pass on the information when I came on board. Or it could be they're just doing their own thing and has not actually solicited local input. I don't know. Again, it's a new thing for me. I just had heard about it last week for the first time.
Well, the only resource conservation that we've worked with has been through RCRC and other people's programs. We are one of the last counties to have our own program.
Yeah.
So,
No, I think having an RCD is sort of a separate issue. I think that's, we're moving forward with that. Hopefully I support it. I hope hopefully the voters will also. And we could reference that in this measure, have a separate measure. We could wait until the vote takes place. I think the board has already said we want to do this. And so I think it's, as a policy matter, we've already sort of made that statement. It wouldn't be inconsistent with the county's actions over the past several weeks to add another measure to specifically reference the RCD, if that's what you want to do. Or we could include it in this one here. We could list RCD and the Sierra Nevada, or, there's different ways that we could do that.
because we do some participation through other counties, not on our own.
Mm-hmm. I think this specific program was identified because it is something that, the state's declared a state of emergency as far as the forest health and the, dying trees. Now the Forest Service has, sort of finally got on board to realize we have a problem out here. They're trying to do something. They're working together. And I think one of the suggestions was that if we get more involved, we may actually have some focus done on the forest in Calaveras County. It won't be going to Madera or Fresno or someplace else. I think that there's value in participating with those federal programs to say, hey, we're also working locally to improve our forest, and we can pool our resources here. We can get some federal funding, as well as whatever else we can do locally to look at the forest, comprehensively, not just, here's your part, and here's Pacific's part, and here's the state's part. We look at the whole forest, and we can maybe develop some kind of implementation measure that comes out of this improvement program, and Supervisor Edson's push, and whatever comes out of the RCD, and anything else that's out there. I think there's a lot of different things that we can do to maximize the benefits by getting as much people working together on it as we can.
I would be okay with her such as, if you guys are.
I think it's broad enough.
Okay. What do you think, Ted?
I agree. I'm fine with it.
Okay.
There was one other thing. I don't know if you were going to go back to D, COXXD. You did mention that, but then we jumped ahead to XE. I did talk to our Air Pollution Control District, and first they were a little offended that, it sounded like they were putting the kibosh on prescribed burning, and they said, in their opinion, they don't, but they're certainly willing to. Now, there's some state requirements that they have no control over, but as far as locally, they want to, they're trying to accommodate it. I'll leave that up for those who have experienced that directly. But I think that, work to modify the air regulations. I think there was some suggested language from Ms. Platt that said support modifications of air quality regulations to accommodate the increased use of prescribed burns on public and private lands. I actually sort of like that language, and I think that would be a good.
So
I like it too.
Yeah, it's fine with me too. One of the things that when we're talking about work to modify air quality regulations to accommodate the prescribed burns on public and private lands, the issue that we're having is that we are consumed with dead trees in the Arnold area. I mean, it is massive. And we have these logs in everybody's yards that are stacked everywhere. They just get dropped, and there they sit. We have no way to haul them. We have no way to move them. The state does not allow you to do it without a timber harvest license. We have very few people that have those in this county. So a typical person can't drive down the road with logs on the back of a truck. One of the things that's being worked on right now is a curtain burner being put in a private facility in Avery, and they're going to have issues with that, and this is where we're going to run into them. The curtain burners burn much cleaner, but they have to comply with the burn and air quality days. So we can burn during certain times, and then it goes to strictly at nighttime. And at nighttime, They would have to work a crew at night to use the curtain burners, which they are a much better method of burning than people burning in their yards. I mean, there's much less risk to a wildfire, there's much less risk to, and the smoke is not as bad. We've got an issue with this because once burning is stopped, and I would hope and anticipate with this drought that burning is stopped sooner than later, not based on air quality, but on the drought situation. We need to be able to work with people that are willing to purchase curtain burners because our county can't afford to purchase them. This is our only means of complying with 4291, and the restricted hours on those burners are going to keep that from being a viable piece of equipment. So those are the types of things that we would like to see where our county can accommodate, even though it's not a prescribed burn per se, but it is a method of removing those pine needles from our area. That is one of the restrictions on the air quality that's hurting, and that's something that maybe the local, I know we have the state, but maybe our local environmental health department can work within to be a little more flexible on the curtain burner, because it is going to save us a wildfire that someone has burning in their yard that doesn't escape. That would be one of my things that I would be wanting to look into.
So on XF green energy production, we said review the zoning ordinance, and we might want to add and APCD regulations and amend as necessary to facilitate development of green waste to energy projects and other projects that convert green waste to products.
I think that's
such
your
as
cogen plants.
cogen, or it could even be like the guy that over here with the picking up pine needles and making pine needle wattles out of them. Rather than using straw, you can use pine needle. And so there's an operation going on right now to do that. Some guy came to our counter the other day and he has a large vacant lot up in Arnold area and wanted to be able to collect pine needles there and then figure out what to do with them.
You can have them all.
Well, as long as we're crossing into XF here, when you talk about green waste to products, converting green waste to products, you're talking about products for the purpose of energy production?
It could be anything.
It-
I mean,
yeah, it could be
so it could be
Pine-
energy
Pine
production.
needles to wattles, as you just.
Yeah.
To what?
Yeah.
Wattles?
Wattles or what, at the.
You see the erosion control, they're like a long tube, usually they're straw.
Oh, it's,
and they're staked to the ground.
A cofferdam.
Well, a little different than that. They're
We call
usually,
wattles.
you see them on a steep hillside and they're sort of, strung
Cofferdam,
up.
I call it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, wattles. is what
Okay,
they're
so
known
the
as.
problem that I had with XF was that it's talking about two different things, but under the heading of energy production.
Have maybe change the heading to
Green waste
green
production.
waste usage or something like that.
Or
Yeah,
green waste
on
and
one hand,
energy
you're talking about
production.
energy production, on the other, you're talking about recycling,
Or reusing, yeah.
reusing, recycling. Yeah.
So what did we say, green waste what?
Well, we were talking about trying to either separating them into two different pieces or coming up with a title that grabs it all.
Green waste reuse?
Usage?
Why can't we
Something
just
like
say,
that.
why
That's
can't we
fine.
say green waste projects?
Or reuse, because it could be converted to energy or.
Reuse?
Yeah, reuse. You're reusing it.
Doesn't matter, it's just a title.
That's fine.
So is there anything else on?
I have XG questions. These federal, state, and other local programs, get local programs, I'll assume that's us. Federal and state programs to reduce tree mortality. What are these programs, and do they come with conditions that clearly aren't stated here? That
Well,
we may
I don't
object
know
to?
what those are. All I know is that there is a huge movement right now to figure out what to do about tree mortality. Amador County, Tuolumne County, both at the Planning Directors Conference, they mentioned that as big issues facing them right now. Their board's grappling with it. The state's declared a state of emergency. There will be programs that are developed to address tree mortality, and we should participate in it. Doesn't necessarily mean we say, oh, whatever you say, we're going to do, but participate in it both as far as developing those programs and then where it's practical, implement them here if it works for us. It doesn't mean sort of a carte blanche, we'll accept whatever the state tells us.
Okay, so these are programs yet to be developed?
Right.
Well, some of them are in the works right now with other counties. We've just missed the boat on that one, but this is a huge issue. I know Supervisor Oliveira is serving on a committee at the state that's working on this tree mortality issue. So there's a lot of work being done around this, and we are desperately going to need some help. I mean, the situation is getting dire up where we're at, so we're going to be needing to be looking at help on these issues.
Okay.
And you're probably experiencing the same thing.
Yeah.
Holtz here in Nevada is facing it.
I've seen the maps.
So are there any other comments at this point? Maybe, Peter, do you want to review the changes, and then maybe we'll take a lunch break, and then we'll come back for public comment? Or do we want to have public comment first?
I say, well, it's fresh in their mind, let's let them
Okay,
comment.
but perhaps everybody is on the same playing field. Peter, could you?
Before you take public comment.
Well, no, I'm going to have Peter do a summary of the.
But I had one more.
Oh, okay.
Nothing
Sure.
yet.
Okay.
And that was with respect to policies. I'm going back to my idea of the greenhouse gas issue and our participation and our contribution to it, because we've got on the green waste reuse implementation measure, where we burn green waste to produce energy. Is it possible to tie that to the greenhouse gas reduction obligations vis-a-vis, when you do this, can it be measured that you are reducing the need for off-site fossil fuel powered plants that produce, more greenhouse gases than would be produced by this green waste reuse method?
I'm not sure if there is
there a
really
correlation?
correlation of burning wood versus burning coal or oil. But I think what we're saying is, rather than burning it in your yard and just having burn piles, and let's at least make some energy out of it, so we can, that was the point.
But not only make energy out of it, but burn it cleaner than it would otherwise be burned.
Right. Rather than a burn pile that's smoldering, that you burn it in a burner that's contained, and there's less
So for me,
I
that's a
think there's
greenhouse gas.
two ways we could address that. One, we could put in the goal where we sort of list the benefits of this, we could add greenhouse gas reductions to that. We could add under X3 for energy production and
Greenhouse gas
greenhouse
reduction.
and for energy
Yes.
and greenhouse gas reduction. Either one of those would work.
Okay, I like that idea, because I think there is a contribution that's being
Yeah.
made here, and we're not crediting ourselves for the action. And,
So I don't know if you want it in the policy, you want it in the goal, you want it in both.
I think X3 was a good spot for it.
Did you
that
say
policy.
X3?
X3,
I agree.
yeah,
Yeah.
By putting it as a policy,
Yeah.
it's more detailed.
yeah.
Okay.
So, and then I have another question now.
You could put it in both, but that's a fine place for it.
X3 is good.
Let's just make sure that we correlate then. Yes, XF is the corresponding measure, so that's good.
What was your question, Lisa?
My question was, when Peter brought up that the air pollution control work to modify air quality regulation, you had said you had different language from them, a
Yeah,
recommendation,
on
and we forgot to look at that.
On the email from Colleen Platt, the very last proposed edit says, support modification of air quality regulations to accommodate the increased use of prescribed burns on public and private lands. And I think that's a good way to phrase that.
Where are you seeing that?
It's on the second page of her email.
But it's not incorporated in here.
It's not in my, that I received that like a half
Right.
hour after I sent this out to
So
you guys.
this would go where?
This would replace my COXD, which is in the middle of that, the second page.
So do you want to, could you give a summary?
Sure. So on the revised goal or policy X2, we strike through the through brush removal phrase on the third line. On X3, we're going to add at the end and greenhouse gas reduction. We're going to move policy X4 back to as an implementation measure and revise it to add, we're striking interested and adding private property owners.
Interested becomes...
becomes responsible.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, and adding private property.
And adding private property
Correct.
owners.
Right, both.
And then I'm going to suggest we change prescribed burning rather than burns.
Good idea.
Sounds better. On COS XD, rather than my recommendation, use the recommendation from Ms. Platt.
Which, do you mind reading it?
It reads again, support modification of air quality regulations to accommodate the increased use of prescribed burning on public and private lands.
Increased needs,
Increased use of.
increased use of.
On XE, support and participate efforts such as the Sierra Nevada Watershed Improvement Program that strive to establish and maintain healthy forests.
And it was just participate in efforts.
Yes, participate in efforts.
Right.
Yeah. And then we're modified the title of XF, green waste reuse. We added zoning ordinance and APCD regulations. And those are the changes I think we discussed.
Are we good with that? All right. So is there anyone in the public that'd like to talk about this healthy forest, woodlands, and rangelands goal policy and implementation measures?
Can I take the opportunity? I'm Peter Race from Jenny Lynn. There was a discussion and debate about who should be involved in making policies and so on. Federal forests, local forests. There's one more player in this game that hasn't been mentioned. It's called nonprofit stakeholders, regional nonprofit stakeholders that want to sit at the table and make decisions. And because they are a private organization, financed by, well, let's not go into the full financing it, but the stakeholders do want to influence those, and they are regional. So I would much hope that whatever you write, with my limited English, let me tell you, that the decision-making and whatever compromise deals you're going to make stays and made by local elected officials. That's one thing. The other thing that Dave, you brought up about taking advantage of local waste to be burned and so on. Yesterday I was talking with one of the fire chiefs. There are ways to have mobile units that you can take to site.
I think that's Lisa's comment, isn't it?
I don't want to give it any credit.
Is that the curtain device you're talking about?
No. There's a portable unit you can put to site where it's going to have to be burned. It's fully enclosed. It's a steam engine, basically, a catalytic converter on top so that the pollution is minimized. It's generate electricity, and you can work a deal out with PG&E, just like my solar panels. You plug it in, pole, whatever, and you can get credit for the electricity you create. I mean, if a county has one of these units, or 2 units, whatever, okay? I don't know what they cost, so it's basically maybe just a fantasy. But they can share it with other fire districts. And they can come on site, burn it clean, make money, and you don't get anybody upset. Plus, the fire department's operating it, and the county gets money out of it. instead of letting it go up in the sky.
I think it's a great idea, and since you wouldn't give me any credit, we'd like you to buy one and let's try it.
Thank you. Can I borrow your credit card for a couple minutes?
Sure.
Who normally owns these machines?
Well, for one thing, on big construction sites, they have it. Because they have lumber and so on. And take a look at it, right across the valley. Patterson, I believe, they burn garbage.
Yep.
And they're making a mint.
Yep.
I was involved because it down in Martinez, people voted it down,
But
okay?
that's not a portable unit.
No, that's not, they have portable unit. Miniaturized portable. I mean, you talk about a couple of semis coming out there, okay? Whatever it is. But you don't have to haul it out, you don't have to burn it out in the open. Everybody's happy. And it's not a waste of time and money. Even if you share with a couple other counties nearby here. And it's a closed unit, it boils the water, turns the turbine, turns the generator, a couple of nuts, big plug it up to the pole, and you should get credit from PG&E. I'm sure you can. You're the lady with looks and brains. I'm sure you can solve the problem. Yes.
Thank you.
Don't say what you think.
I'm not. Anyone else?
Vicki Ranke, Calaveras County Republicans. I just wanted to make a suggestion on COSXE, the water
XE?
XE Watershed Improvement Program. It seems like if you wanted to make it broad, because I know you were having problems with the Sierra Nevada being the only one mentioned, but you could just say support and participate in watershed improvement programs, and then you're open to any program. So anyway, that was just a suggestion there. And the other thing is, I just wanted to thank again Commissioner Wooster for bringing this into the general plan. I think it's great for our county. Thanks.
Thank you.
Vicki Mills. I was curious where, I know you struck out Kelly's X.2, but where did you put the part about, that would actually address the dead and dying trees? I mean,
COSXG, participate with federal, state, and other local programs to reduce the tree mortality. It was under XG.
no, in policies.
It's,
I think
I'm
it's
talking
under
about
X2.
policies. I'm
It's the
sorry.
revised X2.
Right.
It doesn't specifically say dead and dying trees.
it just says healthy habitat, promoting it, and one way would be to address dead and dying trees. It's,
Minimize fire hazards,
Yeah.
promote healthy habitat and productive grazing. So rather than specify everything that, you know.
So you
overstock
just
trees.
lumped everything together on that one.
Yes.
There's a couple of phrases that arguably address that. I can point them out to you if you want.
We can do that offline, David. We
Well,
don't need to take time.
To minimize fire hazards and promote healthy habitat, so it would be included there. And the last part, through use of prescribed burning, mechanical removal, and other means. You might think of that as a little bit of a stretch, but it does include.
Yeah, I guess why I'm being so super sensitive to the dead and dying is because I went to the Board of Supervisors Tuesday when they were addressing the tree mortality emergency, as well as what, as Lisa said, Director Supervisor Oliveira and Supervisor Wright are on the governor's task force for that, and talking about that. So I guess just because it says healthy forest habitat, I know I'm being probably really dense, but, and it is a general plan, so it has to be general. I think that's probably my problem. I want it to be a little more specific when it comes to dying with the emergency that we are in. But it really does need to be general.
Let me make a suggestion here, because if we are saying that the policy portion is X2, the new X2, then we need to include measure XG as the support in that, and it currently is not.
Actually, I think that what we really want to do is look at X1, which is focusing on forest. X2 is looking at woodlands and brush. And what I think you're saying is you're concerned about the dead and dying trees in the forest.
Dead and dying trees,
Don't you have
period.
Where we have
problem with-
removed brush, small trees, and dead and dying trees, we could add that to that first policy, X1.
I think that's a good idea. I think the oaks, though, are covered by X2,
Right.
but Ms. Mills is right.
And then the
X1
tree
is-
mortality, XG is addressed in
It
that.
already is there, I
Yeah.
just didn't realize that the mortality issue was limited to the forest component.
Yeah, it's limited to the
Yeah,
plants.
that,
Yeah.
I don't know that that's true, but I'm not the expert there.
I think that's where the real issue is, for certain. I mean, there are,
That's where the
dead and-
programs are aimed?
That's where the programs are in, because that's where the real, that's
Okay.
where everyone is focused on right now.
Then sticking it in here, how did your new language read then?
I would just, after, remove brush and small trees and dead and dying trees, or diseased and dying disease.
Yeah, you just don't need that second and, or the first and. Brush, comma, small trees, and dead and dying trees.
Yeah.
thank you.
Welcome, thank you.
Okay.
Come on up.
Just one question. Lisa brought up a term I wasn't familiar with, the curtain burner. And I think that was while we were on COS XD, the Air Quality Regulations program. And I was wondering if your concerns were addressed there, because this program addresses prescribed burning, but that's more of a method of burning. Didn't you say the curtain burner was a method of burning?
Well, Peter had brought up, the reason I brought up the curtain burner is because Peter brought up that there were some concerns around that, and I don't know if it was air pollution control saying, modifying the air regulations, and that's when I brought it up, because the curtain burners burn so much cleaner and a lot less risk to escape debris.
But it's
burn.
not considered a prescribed burning.
It wouldn't be considered a prescribed burn, but when it has to comply with burn days.
Okay.
So
So
it-
I was just wondering if this program could be expanded to make sure it includes that to method of burning versus prescribed burning, or, something to make sure that that got included in there.
Well, I think when we got down to...
Did it get somewhere else then?
When we were talking about support other
XF
methods
talks about
of
looking at the regulations to facilitate development of green waste to energy and other projects that convert green waste to products, so that would think it would fit in that one. So I think
Except
we're
for
okay.
it's not, yeah, and it could go under the reuse, but this isn't reuse, this is burning
That's
anyway.
why I really didn't
And it's
see
really
it.
not, well, you're not converting it to energy.
Yeah.
No,
that's
you're
true.
not, you're just...
It seemed more of a
disposing
method
of.
of prescribed burning, but it wasn't prescribed burning, so I just wondered if there was a way you could make that broader in
Can we put it under
COS
the
XD.
XF, Peter, as far as when we say green waste to products and other...
Well, if the concern is about the air quality regulations.
Yes.
Then XD is where it should go.
Right.
And we could say prescribed burning and other disposal.
Yeah, something
Methods
like
or
that, so
something.
Yeah.
that could be covered in there. That was my concern, that her
Thank
issue
you.
didn't get addressed in that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So it'd read the increased use of prescribed burning and other disposal methods on public and private lands?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? No? All right, so,
I think I-
we've already had the summary with just these final changes.
Guess the last question is, where do you think this should go? Do you want to plug it in the front? Do you want to add it at the bottom? I try to think of a way that maybe fits with the, sort of that solo measure A. Didn't seem that they really fit there very well. So,
Why don't you just make it the first goal and policy and call it
okay.
healthy
And then just
forests?
renumber the rest of them?
Yeah.
Okay. So it becomes X1, everything else gets bumped back one. You can do that.
So with that, are we ready for to,
A motion
Rec-
to
motion,
add
yes.
these changes to the conservation open space element along with
and
the...
a recommendation to the board?
Yeah. So this would be the planning commission's recommendation on the conservation open space element with these final edits.
I'll make a recommendation.
You make a motion?
That thing.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll second that.
It's been moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries.
That was good work.
All right, so
Thank you,
it's, we will recess for
Commissioner
lunch,
For
and
driving that
um,
action on
we'll be back here at 10 after
page
1.
that was.
That was great.
Well, okay, so buy lunch.